Georgia went from having the best defense in the SEC statistically the last 3 seasons to dropping a little bit closer to the middle of the pack, about 6th, 7th, 8th overall, depending on the numbers that you look at. And one of the numbers that got worse was passing yards allowed. Georgia teetering around that 175 yards per game allowed number the last 3 seasons before 2024, which is really, really good. And then that jumped up to about 200 yards per game this season, this 2024 season. Now, all of the numbers pretty much, when you look at Georgia's team offensively and defensively, just got worse in 2024. The team just wasn't as good as what it was the years before that, but it doesn't mean that we can't pick apart and look at these different things. So welcome in Ryan Curley from Dawg Post, talking about the passing defense. There are open competitions in Georgia's secondary for 2025. It is my understanding that there are only 2 spots locked up. One is free safety KJ Bolden. Kirby Smart's had a lot to say about him. We could talk about KJ Bolden. The other is cornerback Dalen Everett, who will be one of the only seniors on this football team, one of the only 4-year guys, and certainly one of the only 4-year guys that has spent all 4 of those seasons wearing the red and black and playing in Sanford Stadium. So a lot of turnover at that position. And when I say that, I kind of mean the last few years. Georgia's turned it over and turned it over and turned it over with the secondary. And now it's really getting reset with Malachi Starks and Dan Jackson out the door. Those guys were part of national championship teams. Those guys played a lot of important snaps for Georgia the last few years. And we know, obviously, pretty much the rest of the players that were contributors for the national championship teams are gone. And that now includes the secondary. So if they only lost 2 guys, why am I saying that there are 3 spots when this is about a 5-guy secondary when you think about the slot corner, nickelback, whatever you want to call that. The star is what Georgia calls it. 2 corners, the star, 2 safeties. That's how Georgia plays defense in their nickel package, and they use that nickel package a good bit. I say that because I think that there's an open competition for who's going to be the starting cornerback on the other side of Dalen Everett. So let's really get to that. Kirby was asked about Ellis Robinson IV. Now, before I bring you what he said about Ellis Robinson IV, Daniel Harris is the most experienced one outside of Dalen Everett. And he started some games last year. He was competing with Julian Humphrey and eventually kind of took over that cornerback 2 spot that Julian Humphrey had a hold on him earlier in the season. And there were some growing pains. Daniel Harris got beat sometimes. It's not like Dalen Everett didn't get beat. It's not like Malachi Starks didn't get beat. But a guy that's had some off-the-field issues that Kirby's had to deal with. He dealt with a suspension last year. And a player that's just a little bit more raw at that spot. Now, Ellis Robinson IV. He is an upcoming sophomore. He is one of the highest-ranked prospects that Georgia has ever brought in. And he's one of the highest-ranked prospects ever. When you just go to 24/7, go to ESPN, you go to the all-time rankings, Ellis Robinson is a 5-star plus type of player, however one of those sites puts it. He is like one of the 20, 30 highest-ranked players at a high school ever. And it's like a 6'1" corner, super long arms, 200 pounds. This is what Kirby had to say when he was at, and why I'm saying I think it's a competition. This is what Kirby had to say when he was asked about Ellis Robinson last week. He said, yeah, he's playing good. He's practicing good. He's competing. He rolls in there. I think he, Daniel Harris, and DeMello Jones have all rolled through the ones with pretty significant time. They're going against some good wideouts. They keep getting matched up against the big guys, Colby Young and Noah Thomas, and even the other wideouts. So I'm pleased with where Ellis is. What I like about Ellis is he competes. He competes for the ball, and it bothers him when people catch the ball on him. Okay, so we can break down what he said about Ellis Robinson. I think anyone would get mad when the ball gets caught on them. It gets mad when I get mad when I'm playing against my buddies in pickup football situations and someone catches the ball on me. But it's good to know that what Kirby's looking for, which is to compete in the fire, he can find it in some of these younger players. But when you go back to the beginning of that quote, it says, I think he, Daniel Harris, and DeMello Jones have all rolled through the ones with pretty significant time. One reason for that, to where you can't look at it too deeply, is Dalen Everett's limited this spring, so he's not doing everything. which means he's not participating in everything, which means there are more snaps for Kirby and Travaris Robinson, Dante Jackson to figure out who is going to be the guy opposite of Dalen Everett. But with Dalen Everett being out, that means there are more reps to be taken. And that means there's more opportunity for DeMello Jones and Ellis Robinson if it is true that Daniel Harris is just going to keep that job. But I do think that it's an open competition. Daniel Harris didn't have it locked up last season during his sophomore season. We've seen Keely Ringo have his job locked up his sophomore season. We saw Kamari Lassiter have it locked up his sophomore season. We saw Dalen Everett have it locked up his sophomore season. That wasn't the case with Daniel Harris. I think this is a little bit different. He's a guy that was competing with another player who struggled a lot in Julian Humphrey. Now, DeMello Jones, Daniel Harris is going into year 3. DeMello Jones and Ellis Robinson are going into year 2. DeMello Jones, South Georgia Swainsboro, super athlete. I really like DeMello Jones and what I saw from him out of high school, and could play offense too. So I think that there's some athletic potential there with him for sure. But part of it is just Dalen Everett's out for the most part, so those guys are getting reps. But I think they do want to figure out, hey, who's going to be this other guy opposite of Dalen Everett? Because in big moments, Dalen Everett showed up last year against Texas twice. You look at Michael Williams, Jalen Walker, Dalen Everett, Trevor Etienne. What they have in common? They beat up on Texas twice, but he showed up in really big moments. He made some serious plays. He is the most experienced guy in that corner room, and you know he's going to have one of those starting spots. But like I said, the verbiage that Kirby has offered this spring has made me think, hey, this is an open competition at that second cornerback spot. Now, he'd also tell you that there's an open competition pretty much at every spot, including quarterback. But I do think that it's Ellis Robinson has an opportunity. If it's going to be Ellis Robinson, it's go time. If it's going to be DeMello Jones, it's go time. Daniel Harris, you're the older guy. You have a little bit more experience. Are you going to fight them off? But I think it says something that all 3 of those guys are getting reps with the ones, and it's not just, hey, it's Daniel Harris. So when you think about safety, right, and I transitioned to talking about the safeties with this, KJ Bolden is the guy that they've got locked in. He started as a true freshman last year. He's going to be one of the deep safeties, I believe. He has a lot of potential to be an All-American one day. He has a lot of potential to be a high draft pick in the future. And Kirby's viewing him as the experienced guy in the room because at this point he has the most snaps with Georgia. There's older players, there's transfer players, there's Zion Branch and Adrian Maddox who are transferring in, and I think they're both competing for the safety spots. There's Ja'Cory Thomas and Janelle Aguero who have been around for a few years. Janelle Aguero is my guess for who's going to win that nickelback, that star position. He's played it some in the past, and he's made some plays, and he's a former 5-star who is really, really athletic. But Ja'Cory Thomas is one of the older guys in this room that's fighting for that. Will he be a candidate to transfer out this spring, right? When this next window comes up and people can transfer again soon? If one of these guys doesn't get the job, they've had a couple players transfer in at that position. Does someone transfer out? I think that's something to keep an eye on. And I don't know if it'll be Ja'Cory Thomas, but he's a player that's been in and out of that lineup and I think has a really good chance to be there. There's also true freshman Todd Robinson has been rumored to be getting some reps with some of the, at least mixing in there, right? Kirby didn't really say that he was getting reps with the ones, but there's a lot of turnover at this position, and Georgia regressed in the passing defense this past season. Like I said, regressed in kind of all areas of the defense, but I do think it's important to monitor, hey, there's open competition at all these spots. I don't think that that's truly the case at most of these positions. I think they know who the guys are, and they are just letting some people get first-team reps. When it comes to the secondary, it is true. It's an open competition. I don't think it's just Daniel Harris's job. I don't think it's just Ja'Cory Thomas or Janelle Aguero's job. I think that there's legitimate competition at the cornerback and safety positions, and it's something to monitor, but especially at that cornerback 2 position. Will Ellis Robinson finally break through? Will DeMello Jones beat him out? Or will Daniel Harris hold them off? I think that they have the safeties more figured out than that, if I'm being honest. Thank you for watching.